Yep. I booted myself out and yo, do you guys hear me now? Is that better? I gotta clip like the first 2 minutes of this. My bad. There you go. Alrighty. My bad. All right. So 20 and 20 game for Fred VanVleet. We're gonna talk about that. We're also gonna talk about a recent article that came out, specifically citing a particular stat which is called clutch squared. And I talked about it earlier on Instagram, and I want to talk about it more because it is very interesting to see that this team does have players who perform well in the clutch, but they don't seem to go through them very often. So we're going to dig into those stats a little bit because everything was about stats tonight, right? Let's talk about this game, man. Honestly, I've pointed it out in previous lives. There are certain teams where you're too good. You're too much better than your opponent, and they're fielding out a team of G Leaguers basically. Like, I mean, Mark Williams is good. I have been very impressed. My friend Grayson, shout outs to Grayson. He messaged me the other day. He's like, Rob, what do you think about Mark Williams? I'm like, every time I think about Mark Williams, I think Jalen Duren's gonna be better. But that does not dismiss the fact that Mark Williams, I mean, look at this 2021 draft, 2022 draft, sorry. I mean, there very potentially could be four starting centers picked in the first 34 picks. Walker Kessler, Jalen Duren, five actually, if you include Chet Holmgren, Mark Williams, and possibly Christian Coloco. This was a good draft for centers. Centers are very undervalued in today's NBA. Very interesting, from a market economics standpoint, that you could get a starting center for basically a second round pick or use like a late first and draft your future center. It's interesting to think about that and why that has happened and how that has happened, um, as teams gravitate towards 3 and D wings and 3 point shooting in general. Um, yeah, so listen, all night we're hearing Alvin Williams talk about Fred VanVleet. I mean, honestly, Alvin Williams is not old enough to be going senile on air, but it seems every single day there's like a completely discombobulated, disconnected. Like, you're an analyst, you should know if it's a 3-2 zone or a 1-3-1. You should know. You're watching the game. You should know which team scored. Honestly, probably the moment of the night, the funniest moment of the night, because sometimes people do let where their heart is and who they're really for and who they're against, was Matt Devlin with his that's obviously a flagrant one, and his shock when they called it a common foul. I got to tell you, that was kind of funny. I mean, could you have called a flagrant one? I mean, flagrants are intentional. Like the immediate, oh my God, Freddie was hurt. You know, it, it's so weird to listen to that. Now, this 2020 stuff, like, if you understand basketball, you understand that there were plenty of ways for the Raptors to beat an outmatched Hornets team, probably by 30 to 40 points tonight. It's just really, not only does it not help that this is a terrible team to begin with, it also doesn't help that they're missing seven players. I mean, my God, Svi Mihailik. Now, I was very happy for Svi to get a bit of revenge. To be honest, I really liked him when he was with the Raptors, and I was really hoping that the Raptors should bring him back. They did not. He's obviously gone through a lot with everything that's happened with Ukraine, but it was good to see him get, some points up on, the team that effectively cut him or let him go. But seeing his shooting percentages this year, seeing Utah's shooting percentages this year, these are the two guys who couldn't quite, make it work for you, couldn't work in your lineup. And now you are one of the worst 3 point shooting teams in the league. And when you look down the league, who are the top 3 point shooters, the two guys you let go of are actually really good 3 point shooters. Svi, I think, is shooting 44% from three this year. Wow. Kind of goes to show, right? Now, all night we're listening to Fred VanVleet talk about how Freddie's. Sorry, we're listening. See, it's hard sometimes to distance Alvin Williams from Fred VanVleet. Sometimes you're hearing about one, and it's almost like they're the same person. It's an extension of the same conversation, and night after night, you listen to Alvin Williams say that the Raptors are best with Fred VanVleet. He needs to be the closer. He needs to be on the ball. And it's just an advancement of Fred's own talking points. These are all of Fred's talking points. He believes he should have the ball in his hand. I don't think that he was deaf to all of the Scottie's got to get the reins talk the last 2-3 days. Scottie's the only player who showed up against Philly. It's time to turn the keys over to the kid. Nice game to remind everybody who the real point guard is, right, Fred? 20 and 20. The most, honestly, I've watched a lot of stat padding in my life, okay? Sometimes it's personal. You know, sometimes it's the team that traded you. You want to put up 50 piece against them. Sometimes it's like you got 36 in the third quarter and your team just really wants you to get to 50. Sometimes those games do happen. It's never really something that I'm going to champion or be for as a, let's call it a basketball purist and someone who believes in team basketball. But to come out like right away with this game plan, yo, he was making passes that he's never even thought of making because he just wanted to, you know, because I mean, obviously, you know, he had a really terrible game last game, right? Six turnovers, 3 very crucial turnovers down the stretch. Scottie's getting all these big assist numbers. There's a very big difference between an 8 to 10 assist game from Scottie and this 20 assist game from Fred. And if you understand basketball, you know the difference, okay? Icing on the cake, okay? I'll tell you the moment of the night for me. Fred already has his 20 and 20. He's already got the record. He throws it to Pascal, okay? Now, tell me if you saw this in the comments. Throws it to Pascal for his 21st assist, which would have been, I believe, Pascal's 38th point. Or 30, it would have been Pascal's 36th point. Throws it to Pascal, and Pascal misses a bunny at the rim, grabs the rebound, the offensive rebound, and puts it back up. Pascal then says, my bad. I didn't get you the assist. My bad. And then in the breakage, right when they go for a timeout, I believe that's when all of these guys came out of the game, and you know Joe Wieskamp and Malachi Flynn and Delano Banton and Ron Harper Jr. These guys came in. He once again goes up to Fred VanVleet and says, "Shit, my bad." Thank you. Can you be any more transparent? Bro, we are in the 21st century of modern, you know, television. Everyone sees everything. Why are you saying my bad? You just scored. This is about scoring, right? This is about winning basketball, right? It's not about getting Freddie his 21st assist so he can have a little bit more of a comfortable lead on Kyle Lowry. Yo, what the fuck am I watching? My bad? You got the offensive rebound and you scored. That's a good thing, Pascal Siakam. What the fuck is wrong with you? Does that piss anyone else off? That you have this hapless, injury, like totally depleted opponent. And all you can think about right now, in the midst of your disaster season in which you two have underperformed drastically and come up short consistently as your team has watched you do this. Yo, the worst part about this for me, and I want to tell you, it's the worst part, was watching Delano Banton come in, Ron Harper Jr., and I'm looking at these young kids, and yo, these guys are 22, 23 years old. I mean, they're learning how to be a pro by watching this guy who's elevated to the, you know, to the platform of that's your leader, that's a champion. Well, that's how champions act, huh? That's not how he acted when he was winning a championship. That's how he's acting now. This is crazy to me. And then to watch Delano Banton basically do the same shit and get an air ball right away. Oh my God. Yo, you young kids. And I'm saying you young kids not in an insulting way, right? I admire the hell out of anyone who has the stick-to-itiveness and the courage and the, you know, the dedication to become a professional athlete. But I realize now that I'm talking like an old head. That's crazy to say. You probably, you know, some people still check my ID and they, you know, they'll be like, oh, you look 24, 25. No, I am 35 years old. And it dawned on me as I was thinking about it that I am older than Fred VanVleet by a significant margin. I remember when I was in grade 10, I used to do grade 4 reading buddies. Fred VanVleet could have been my reading buddy. That's crazy to think about. That's crazy, actually. I don't really think about it. Like, he was a kid Like he was a little kid when I was actually already an adult. That's nuts. But now with Delano Banton, like, yo, like I was an adult when you were like I feel bad for these kids. I'm sorry. I'm having like a existential crisis here as I realize that I am older than I sometimes think I am. But yo, I feel bad for these kids learning to play basketball this way, learning that this is what the NBA is about. Because you know what? This is the example you're setting for these kids. Tim Duncan set an example for the Spurs. Selfless basketball. And every player who's come out of that, go look at Greg Popovich's coaching tree. Go look at the players who come out of that system. This is the influence. Yo, Ron Harper Jr. is not going to have influence on your entire roster because you haven't elevated Ron Harper Jr. or Joe Wieskamp or Christian Coloco or Chris Boucher to the status of follow that guy. But this dude, this my bad, this guy, this is your leader. In the midst of this bullshit ass season where we are scraping by for any hope of a playoff, miracle where you have, this is all you can think about. Oh, getting a This is the type of shit you expect from J.R. Smith when he was a rookie. Honestly. Nick Young, maybe guys like this, okay? And they are correctly labeled as knuckleheads sometimes, right? Like we can agree that when Gerald Green did that fast break dunk, we all were just like, this is atrocious, right? We can agree on that. We can agree that sometimes those Russell Westbrook rebounds to get that final rebound on the triple double were a little bit embarrassing. We can agree with that. It's kind of like an insult to the game. This was Hall of Fame, one of the 10 biggest stat padding performances I've ever seen in my life. It was gross. All right. I have addressed Fred VanVleet now. I don't want to. No, and I know that there are other YouTubers out there who are not going to address it this way. They're going to say Freddie's a point guard. Freddie's great. Freddie was unselfish tonight. Yo, it is perfectly possible to get 35 assists and be the most selfish person in the building. It's perfectly possible. Allow the basketball to breathe. You allow others to make plays. Yo, he wasn't even looking to pass to someone who wasn't in a scoring opportunity. He just dribble the ball. And then if Chris Boucher was open, you'd be like, yo, give it to him. He knows exactly. Yo, he's a very smart player. He's a very smart player. I would never accuse Fred VanVleet of being dumb. You've never heard me say it. He is very smart. And he just gamed the system. Let us hope. Patrick, you're nuts. Yikes. All right. Let's look at the team stats here against the Hornets. The Raptors get a 19 field goal attempt margin advantage. They still allow the Hornets to shoot nearly 50% from the field. The Hornets shoot 48% from three and still lose somehow, which is pretty hard to do, actually. You have to be pretty bad. Like to get blown out while shooting 48%. Like you have to be so abysmally bad on defense to do that. They missed a lot of free throws. Obviously didn't get to the line a ton, but there really weren't a lot of free throws in this game at all. Yikes. When's the last time you saw a game with 21 combined free throw attempts? I think the refs wanted this to be over as badly as we did. 15 offensive rebounds for the Toronto Raptors. The curse of, not the curse, but the record of assists continues. The Raptors, I believe, were 8-0 going into tonight when they hit 30 assists, and now they are 9-0 when they hit 30 assists. So take that for what it is. Here are the Toronto Raptors stats. Obviously, it was the Fred and Pascal show. People saying OG is injured. No. We're gonna definitely check into that in the post game for sure. We'll listen to some post game stuff. In terms of points, the points leader tonight, Pascal Siakam, with a very crazy efficient, on his birthday, 16 for 24 field goal attempt night. I really like the 2 threes that he hit. Like I think they were really good and they looked good coming off his hands. So I think that was great. get a balanced effort from the starters. Almost every single starter had like, I mean, this lineup of five guys, they play together a ton of minutes, almost unheard of in the NBA for five-man units to play this much together. But they have good synergy, and they play well together. And everyone who played tonight for the Raptors in the starting lineup, apart from Fred VanVleet, shot above 50%. So, apart from him, choking away at the three, 1 for 8. I mean, he was going for a 30 and 20. It just didn't work out. Um, yeah, and he limited his turnovers. I mean, 20 to 2 assist to turnover ratio is crazy. Um, for the bench, Precious Achua looked decent tonight. I mean, in transition, I think Scottie Barnes got him on that amazing alley oop. I think Fred VanVleet found him once. I mean, he was just doing precious things. If he can bottle this and just kind of stay within himself, I think he'll be good. Christian Koloko, I liked what he saw. I liked that little mid-range, shot that he hit from the corner. I liked it. Um, Good to see him getting minutes, man. It's crazy. Like the Raptors just brought like three bigs off the bench and brought Jeff Dowtin on for 10 minutes, right? Um, yeah, I thought Dowtin was better today, but the only Raptor who is negative in the plus minus, which is you know, I think honestly not an indictment on him at all. James Welsh, I think he played all right. I mean, he didn't force anything. There was one particular play that which just kind of sticks out where Chris Boucher gets the ball. Doughton's expecting him to pass back, and Doughton's just like, "What the hell are you doing?" I think Chris Boucher just had a complete brain fart where he forgot he was playing in an NBA game. He was just like, "Hey man, this is pickup basketball now," and it had a very pickup vibe to it. A lot of this game had a pickup vibe of. It really did feel like those games that you watch in the playground, doesn't it? Like, am I alone in that? It had a pickup vibe to it, right? Um, yeah, and look for the Hornets. Again, shout outs to Grayson for calling, bringing my attention to Mark Williams. I think he was really good tonight. 7 offensive rebounds. I mean, really impactful. Great game for Svi Mihailik, man. 26 points, just really efficient. I loved his, shooting. Kai Jones was a monster inside. I think he got away with one goaltend, but yeah, and James Bouknight, it looks smooth, right? It looks smooth. The talent is all there, but you worry with the Charlotte Hornets specifically about the leadership in the locker room. A lot of the same concerns I have about the Toronto Raptors, it's depressing to say, is the same concerns I have about the Charlotte Hornets. Talent is not an issue with James Bouknight. The talent is not an issue with Kai Jones. He's got lottery picks, right? Talent's not an issue with Mark Williams. He's had 3 lottery picks, right? And Theo Maledon is, I believe, also a lottery pick. This is like a lot of lottery talent on this team. Wait, is Kai Jones a lottery pick? Kai Jones was not a lottery pick, right? The other 3 guys were. So it's like, who are the adults in the room, right? And don't assume because someone's 28 or 29 years old that they are definitely the adult in the room, right? I think sometimes you just need tone setters, and sometimes removing people from situations can elevate somebody else into a situation. I'm definitely going to look into the is OG injured when we look into the post game stuff. But specifically first, we don't have any callers lined up, which is shocking. Does the link not work? Did I not post the link? What's going on here? No callers. No callers on a call-in show. What's going on here? Hang on. I'm just going to post the link again, just in case y'all missed it. Here we go. This is also an early afternoon thing. We're going to look at the clutch stats. Here, I just posted the link for the call-in. So, in terms of clutch stats, here they are. So this is going to take like 2-3 minutes to just break down very quickly. But it's worth thinking about a lot. Okay. So look at I'm going to guide your attention to the bolded part. Those are league averages. Those are league benchmarks. That is what an average player should have, basically. So what does an average player shoot in garbage time? 46.4%, right? What does an average player shoot in the clutch? 45.9%. But clutch is a weird stat because oftentimes, and I think the analytics on clutch and defense, whatever, they do get murky because it's like, how do you define clutch? Is clutch the last 4 minutes of a fourth quarter? Well, what if the game isn't close? Is it 10 points, within 10 points? Is it within 5 points? Like, how do you define a clutch basket, right? I think the best way to understand this is to reverse understand it. Now, I don't like necessarily betting apps or whatever, but I think it's good to understand this from a betting perspective. Consider that a game is 82-82 going into the fourth quarter, right? So it's a tight game in the fourth quarter, right? The bucket that makes it 84-82 does not swing the odds very much, right? There's still 12 minutes to go. It's not a super high leverage moment, right? But flash forward and let's say there's 12 seconds to go in the game and it's tied 105-105. Yo, one shot is going to swing the odds like crazy. It's basically going to go like win probability shifts is how I would look at this if I were you, in terms of that old LeBron quote, 2 points is not 2 points. That's the whole point, right? 2 points is not 2 points. So when you look at this, try to understand it from clutch baskets are not all the same. And there are obviously going to be certain moments that are higher leverage. So for instance, that basket to put your team over, or even the basket when you're down 3 to make a 3, that's like really crazy. And the pressure on that shot, and understandably the defense that the other team is playing on you to stop that shot, is going to be harder. So when you look at clutch squared, which is the final, thing, that is the highest percentile in terms of leverage. That has nothing to do with difficulty. It just has an impact. Like, how does your shot impact the outcome of the game? Okay. Kawhi's shot over Philly was a great example of a clutch square basket. League average on a clutch square basket is 37.5%. Okay. That means that if you shoot above 37.5% effective field goal percentage, then you probably should be taking those shots. And if you shoot below that, you definitely should not be taking those shots. And there's a lot of reasons why someone performs really well in the clutch or someone doesn't perform really well in the clutch. Some people, mystify it and mythify it to the clutch gene. They call it the clutch gene. Some people call it emotional regulation. Some people say the bag, right? If you have bag encounters. Some people say it's just a physical thing. There's a reason why Jakob Poeltl shoots really well, in the clutch in general. He's just bigger. There's certain guys where they have a reputation as clutch scorers, but they actually have terrible percentages in the clutch. One example I remember in 2000, I want to say 2008, 2009, or 2009, 2010, I was looking it up, and you're expecting Kobe to be like the most clutch player in the league, and actually it was Carmelo Anthony that year. And time again, you got to look at it from that perspective of like, who is your best bet to go to in this, at this time of the game. In terms of clutch squared and the Raptors starters, you have to look at this from a perspective also of volume of attempts too, right? Now, the Raptors have insisted over and over in putting Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet into positions to make final plays with the basketball, either the pass that leads to the point or the shot that leads to the points. And they have both performed disastrously in these situations. Now, obviously, one worse than the other, right? So in terms of clutch squared, Fred VanVleet is 29.2%, which is, like almost a full 8% worse than league average. Okay? That's like, there's a league average, attempt there. Now, granted, I do want to say that league average players typically don't take clutch squared shots. So the higher volume of clutch squared shots, you're going up against people who typically take those shots, which is typically predator wings or, alpha scorers, superstars, etc. But there's a reason for that, right? But there's also, a theory that Kelly Oubre takes those shots, right? So it's not all superstars. Obviously, some teams don't have superstars. I am just saying that a disproportionate number of final shot attempts are going to be taken by really good players. So 37.5% on a really, really, really difficult shot at a very crucial juncture of the game is not bad at all, right? It's not great. It's not great. Ideally, you want it to be closer to 40%. But Fred VanVleet's 29.2% is bad. Pascal Siakam's 20% might be the worst for any player who's been given the number of opportunities in clutch in the entire NBA. So all that stuff about Pascal Siakam's not clutch, this is not hate. These are numbers. Okay? But the Raptors do have some hope. And I think for this channel and, just generally the vibe on this channel and the people that I know that you guys usually talk about as supporting, look at the clutch squared percentages for Scottie Barnes, Gary Trent Jr., and OG Anunoby. Now, context. In terms of field goals in clutch situations, OG and Gary are shooting 40% and 50% respectively in terms of effective field goal percentage. Yet they have each made only 5 of said baskets. Okay? Only 5 apiece. Scottie Barnes, in terms of clutch squared, is shooting 41.7%. And he, among those 3 players, has had the highest volume of attempts as well. So, to those of us who have often wondered, would Gary Trent Jr. do a better job than Pascal Siakam at closing out quarters, closing out, a half, closing out a game, having the game winner, even if it's not the politically correct thing to have to, explain to explain to the press after why your superstar max player, all NBA guy can't take a shot. Well, for the same reason that freaking Giannis can't take shots that Chris Middleton can make. Okay, isolation scoring is a skill set. Gary Trent Jr. is a very good isolation scorer. He is also a shifty, somewhat creative isolation scorer. Pascal Siakam is not. Okay, and I think that these stats are not lying to you. Like, this is exactly the eye test that I see, and this is tracking data that shows that, quite frankly, this is not the guy. Now, I want to talk about one specific thing, and this is like more of an eye test thing, and then we're going to get to some callers. Now we have 3 callers lined up, which is awesome. I guess y'all were having lunch or something, late lunch. We got Oak Tree, Mario, and Eshawn in the queue, so we're gonna get to those calls. I don't think Siakam has necessarily a huge bag, but one of the things that I've noticed with him is he doesn't open up his body very much on the dribble, right? I'm just watching some of this game film from Siakam, and I'm just like, yo, like every time he tries to do that, it's a turnover or they grab the ball or whatever, right? I'm just thinking like out loud, like what is Scottie's next step to become a guy who can actually take over an offense? And you notice sometimes that Scottie does lose the ball. Like he has really huge hands, so sometimes he can lose a ball on the same possession and gather it. But it is very interesting to me that he would like that he sort of tends to open himself up more and try things with the basketball that Siakam maybe wouldn't in a certain situation. Siakam's like very reserved and in himself, and it's just like everything is just contained in a little box. You know what I mean? It's a very interesting. It's very interesting because it actually. Okay, so when I was younger, I had a great deal of anxiety, and I think this is like when I was 8 or 9 years old, and someone told me that I lived in an invisible box. They were like, Robert, all of your motions are in an invisible box. Like, do you know what I mean? Like some people are very big, like they're all over the place. They're very open, right? Their body language is open. Some people are very closed off. Their shoulders are always down. Their hands are always crossed. They're always. This is defensive body language. This is confident body language. It is completely different, right? It is completely different. And it does sometimes bleed over into the way you play basketball. Just saying. Scottie's very open, like with the basketball. Like his strides are wide, his handle is wide. It's not all contained in a little box. And that is actually a very good thing because I think that can make you a much more dynamic ball handler going forward. So even though it's not pretty, it is actually a lot more complicated, some of the stuff that he's doing. So I have hope going forward for him. The Raptors do move back to 500. Do want to address that. We'll look at the schedules after. We'll look at the post game, and we'll definitely get to some of the OG stuff if he's injured. I really hope he's not injured, man. This team cannot afford to lose him right now. But yeah, let's get some callers. Oak Tree, what's up, man?
Hey man, it's been a while.
Yes, it has. How are you doing?
You're good, man. Just just in the chat, a lot of people are still, uh, I guess, really in on Pascal no matter what. Like die hard, like he can do no wrong. And I don't know if that's, you know, what's his name? Um, what's his name? The commentator there.
Alvin? Alvin?
Alvin Williams, like you know what I mean? Is it like the brainwashing? Is that what's doing it? Because why can't you see what's the product that's on the floor? Like you see the guy going into his shot whenever it's like you said, I think it was in the last live, whenever guys can move laterally and they have enough size, completely negated. Today, obviously, he was able to hunt and basically have free reign, just like Fred. He didn't have a maxi. He didn't have somebody that he had to cover
Mm-hmm.
or intelligent people. So of course he shined.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, look, in a game like this, I don't have any issues with how Siakam played tonight. He played perfectly within the rhythm of the game. He took shots. This was a great Siakam game. Loved it. Like, awesome. But when we start talking about taking the next step beyond, like, I mean, tonight he played right to his strengths, right? And he played so
Mm-hmm.
well. Like he's catching and running in transition. He's sealing early. He's rolling to the basket. He's taking shots in the rhythm of the offense. Like I liked all the threes he took tonight, except for one. Almost all of them were in rhythm. And if he could just shoot that at 34, 35%, man, like this guy could be a really, really solid second, third option on a really good team. Um, but yeah, like when people start talking, like when you start extrapolating 35, 36 points to be like, oh, this guy's got to be a superstar, and then start saying, oh, 14 points, this guy's got to be a scrub, it just really misses the grander point of how these guys are scoring. Like I was looking last night at Paolo's numbers next to Scottie's, right? Because everyone
Mm-hmm.
swears Paolo is a franchise player and Scottie is like some fucking Dennis Rodman clone bum, right? And
Yeah.
when you look at their numbers next to each other, if you look at the wrong set of numbers, you'd be completely misled. Paolo is averaging 20 points per game. Scottie is not. But man, like you look at the volume of usage, you look at the shot attempts, you look at the percentages. Scottie shot better from the field. He had higher win shares, way higher win shares per 30 per 48. Better defender. He was better across the board. I think he was better at almost every single thing that did not involve holding the basketball. Obviously, you're gonna average way more points and way more assists if you hold the basketball more. But this is very misleading, and it's just like at some point you look at that stat that I flashed about the clutch square thing. Yeah,
That was an awesome stat. Where did you get that? Was that in that site you were talking about before?
yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's a site called Impredictable, I believe, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken, impredictable.com. Yeah, like I mean, I just got to look at that and just say like, yo, if you are the only person on your team that takes game winners, guess what? You're gonna be the only one on your team that hits game winners too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it just makes sense. So I'm looking at a guy like Gary Trent Jr. and I'm like, yo, this guy works really hard at his craft too, right? Like OG works really hard at his craft. Scottie, they all work hard at their craft. So why are we disproportionately going to give one person these reps, these touches, when they have proven to be one of the worst in the NBA at it? Go somewhere else. I mean, I'm pretty sure like it's perfectly possible to misuse a guy too.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell Michael Jordan and Reggie Miller in their primes to just switch
Mm-hmm.
play styles, they would both struggle, right?
Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. Reggie was pure spot up. It is. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they were like at one point, some people could debate like, oh, these are two of the five best shooting guards in the league. Completely different types of players, completely different styles, completely different strengths and weaknesses. So if you're gonna park Jordan out at the 3 point line, I mean, he can hit them, but like that's not really his strength. I mean, you're putting
Yeah,
him in
you're
a
looking at
position.
a scorer versus a shooter.
Yeah, exactly. And like you look at a guy like Siakam and you're like, okay, you can't do this against really good teams when they want to shut it down, and consistently enough, we can't go to you late. So it's like, how are you a superstar? How are you a star in this role? And it's just like it would be greatly to his benefit, I think, if he could play more like he did tonight, like more in the rhythm guy. A lot of easy stuff. Like one of the biggest complaints I've had with him all year is he doesn't seem to get easy shots. He got a lot of easy shots tonight. And is this just because Fred VanVleet decided to pass? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but I think it was, or is it because you're playing a completely hopeless opponent? I don't know, but I mean,
Scrub opponent, man. Scrub opponent. That's it.
what do you make of
That's it
this
to me.
team beating the Dallas Mavericks twice though?
Dallas is in free fall. Dallas is in bad shape.
Yeah,
They like that's what I'll say. You know what I mean? Like, if this was Dallas before the Kyrie trade, I'd be like, okay, wow, hey, Charlotte's doing something. But since that trade, and again, like you said, I'm not blaming Kyrie. You gave away all the defenders. But how are you supposed to beat anybody, right?
that's fair. But like, I mean, I think this is a great example. I think like if those people who in the chat, as you say, like cannot see past the Siakam stuff, right? If those people really want to understand really what this channel's been harping about all year, look at how much the Dallas Mavericks are missing Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer
Mm-hmm.
Dinwiddie, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they added draft capital and got worse.
Yeah, crazy,
That's
crazy. Yeah,
crazy to do, right? But that's the point. You have a guy who sells on defense, who's not a really good defender in Kyrie Irving. So even the fact that he is a way better offensive player than Pascal Siakam or Fred VanVleet, it doesn't matter because it does not result in winning, right? It is perfectly possible to win with a team of competent role players and one sort of loose all-star, if they play the right way and they play the right system, and the system is catered to their advantages. I mean, just look at how the Sacramento Kings play. Every single player in that system is put in a position to succeed. From Keegan Murray to Kevin Herter to DeMontis Sabonis. Now, I'm not saying that team's going to do anything in the playoffs, but they're playing the right way. With the talent that they have, they are maximizing everybody. And I'm seeing this
exactly.
team, and they're not maximizing anybody but
We're
like
not
one
messing
guy.
anybody. Exactly. No, we are. It's horrendous. You have all these 6'9" guys, but you're not doing it what you should be doing with them, right? And my take from a long time ago was you're gonna get all these 6'9" guys, quote unquote 6'9" guys, and then you're going to teach them how to shoot. But by the time this guy learns how to shoot, you're already 2, 3 years into the process, right? You need some balance, right? And that's where the wise cap um, trade was fantastic, right? The acquisition was fantastic. Develop some of the other guys who can shoot, but you're not giving them any play. So I was really ticked off at this game because if it had run through Scottie like you did in the last game, keep developing the Scottie OG dynamic. I'm not saying that Fred and Pascal can't eat, but just keep running it through those guys. This should have been a 30-point blowout from like the first half, and then you could have had the other guys in to let them get some run.
I agree. I mean, like, what's wrong with letting Delano Banton run an entire second half? Like, why not? Like other teams are resting their guys right now. You are the one team that has consistently played your starters into the ground, right? You've played your starters 37, 38 minutes. Everyone's complaining about it. And in a game against the Charlotte Hornets, you
Mm,
can't put them away early so that you can at least get the fourth quarter off. So minutes are not the issue, obviously. The minutes are high because the stats get higher, right? These guys are
mm-hmm,
these guys are operating under the assumption that most people who make basketball decisions can't do simple math. Like, I know that you are getting your points because you're playing 38 minutes a night and taking a crazy number of shots. Like, I'm not stupid. The
mm-hmm,
problem is obviously that when you enter free agency, this is such a, the whole thing is like, it's it's rotten at the core, right? We become obsessed with this idea of a 20-point per game score. That's why people think Paolo is a franchise player, right? So, and I'm not saying he's not and that he's not going to be. I'm just saying that don't jump to that conclusion because it's a 20-point per game score, because I'll tell you there is a very significant gap between a Paolo Banchero and a Gade Cunningham putting up those numbers versus even a low level star like Chris Webber as a first overall pick. Like if
but
I were to
post
stack
injury, post injury though.
pre
Chris Webber post injury.
No, I'm saying Chris Webber as a rookie, right?
Okay,
For the
rookie. Okay,
Orlando
cool,
Magic.
cool. All right.
I remember and then I guess he got traded to the Golden State Warriors, right? And that
To
year that
Webb.
he yeah,
Okay, okay. And when did he end up in Sacramento?
shortly after that.
Sure, that's okay, cool.
Yeah. So I remember C Webb as a rookie was better than Paolo and Cade. But here's something interesting. Scottie as a rookie has also been better than Paolo and Cade, in my opinion, in terms of every metric that I can think of under the sun that matters. So really, in a way, like, people talking about him as like a fourth overall pick or whatever, like that's nothing. Obviously, he's been better, in my opinion, in terms of impact on winning than the past two number one overall picks. There aren't a lot of rookies that impact winning the way Scottie did last year. Um, and yeah, I agree with you. Like, I mean, there was just like such a good vibe going into this game of like, okay, well, this is going to be like a Scottie game where he can, he can run the offense. And it's just like there's such a difference between when he runs the offense and when Fred or Pascal. There's no pre-notion of like, you know what I mean? Like he'll give the ball to OG even when OG's not in
Yep.
a scoring position. He'll
Mm-hmm.
give the ball to he'll give it to OG because OG might be in a playmaking position, right? And, and
Yep.
and that's great because that's exactly how basketball's supposed to work. It's like you're supposed to
Yep.
find advantages on the court at all times. And so if Jakob is in a playmaking position, you're supposed to give him the ball so that he can make the pass. This entire, obsession with triple doubles, double doubles, I feel like this all starts with fantasy basketball and sports betting and parlay bets and all that shit. And honestly, it's like the part that broke my heart, to be honest, is listening to Chris Boucher. Did you hear that? What he said?
Okay. After this game
No, not
or the
not
last
not not
game?
after this game. It was during a pod. I almost
Okay.
don't want to repeat it because it's such a disgusting thing that a
Please
fan
do, please
messaged.
do, please do, man.
Oh, okay. So a fan messaged him and because he hadn't scored 10 points that game and he had picked him to score 10 points that game, he had said I picked the wrong S word, SL word, SLA word. You can deduct from that. Um I don't have to say it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Okay.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And Chris is like, I'm reading this and I'm just like, yo, what the hell? And I'm just like, oh my God. Is this how crazy we are about stats now? Is this how crazy we are about, 10 points versus 20 points that you are willing to message a man and it's so
You know what? I used to bet. I used to bet on sports so much, and it ruined the games for me. So I stopped because it got to the point where I personally don't like betting against the Raptors, even though hey, I know they're going to lose this game because
mhm.
it ruins it for me. It doesn't feel. I don't feel like I'm a fan anymore
I'm not.
personally.
This is not a criticism of anyone who bets. Like I don't care. Do you
Oh
do
no, no,
whatever you want? Yeah, yeah.
no, no.
You do
I'm
whatever.
saying for me. I'm saying for me
Yes, of
because
course.
I love. You know what I mean? So it's like, and again, teach their own. But for me, it was ruining the game because it's like I want us to not hit those 2 3 shots at the game at the end of the game so that we can lose so that I can win my bet. That's all.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It completely subverts the way that you even watch the game because, like, and honestly, I addressed this in a video once I made, but I remember I was playing NBA 2K against my buddy, and he said that I couldn't get a triple double, right, with Eddie Robinson. I don't know if you remember Eddie Robinson, but Eddie Robinson used to play for Chicago Bulls. I think at some point he played for the Charlotte Hornets
Yeah, he
back in
was
the issue.
big. He was big, right? He was
He was a
thick, right?
he was about 6'9". I liked
Okay.
him. I liked him as a
Yeah.
wing.
Hmm.
Anyways, so I picked this completely abstract player in NBA 2K1 or NBA 2K2, I remember, and I was gonna score a triple double with him. And my friend's like, there's no way in hell you're gonna score a triple double with this dude. There's just no way. And he was right. I was struggling, and it's the fourth quarter, and I am trying my damnedest to get these rebounds. I already got my 10 assists. That was easy. Easy 10 assists. I just passed every single time with Eddie Robinson and someone to just take a shot. Boom, 10 assists in the first quarter. Scoring with that dude in NBA 2K was hard as fuck because he could barely shoot. And I'm just like, okay, but then getting the rebounds, this was tough. Like I was just trying to get the rebounds and I couldn't get the rebounds. And it's like 3 minutes to go, and I have only 6 rebounds, and I'm like, I'm not gonna get this triple double. This other dude's not missing. I'm not gonna get this triple double. So you know what I started doing? in the attempt of getting all those points and all those assists, I already had 7 turnovers. So
Mm.
I was like, I'm just gonna get 3 more turnovers, and I'm gonna get my triple double that way.
Oh,
So my friend's watching me step out of bounds on purpose, and he's like, "What are you?" Oh, he didn't pick up on it. And then at the end of the game, I was like, 21 points, 12 assists, 10 turnovers, baby, triple double. And he was so fucking pissed because he did not specify that I couldn't get my triple double through turnovers. But honestly, man, every time I have played basketball on NBA 2K and I have tried to get a guy a 50 piece, it sucks. It sucks.
yeah.
You know, it sucks playing that way because it's like you're force feeding and you're missing things. You know what I mean? You can only focus on one thing at a time. Any one of us can only focus on one thing at a time. And if your focus is I got to get an assist on this possession, you're missing so many opportunities that the defense is presenting you. So I hate this element of basketball. I will continue to rail against it. I am positive that every YouTuber who covers the Raptors, no offense to any of those people, they're going to be all over Fred today and saying he had a great game. I refuse to participate. I refuse. I don't care if I get trolled on Twitter. Fuck it. I saw this for what it was. I saw it in the relationship between him and Pascal and like what they were saying about it, you know, like right as this was happening, saying my bad, my bad. It's such a weird thing to watch, man. Like it's weird, and I hate watching 21, 22-year-old kids do this, but I kind of get it for them. They're immature, but you know, champions should be classy, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think if you have this reputation as a leader, as a champion, yo, this is bigger than you. You know, you are representing, you are setting an example. This is not an example that I want set for Delano Banton.
Yeah, but the foolish thing is that going back to Scottie running it with such a poor team as a competition,
Hmm.
they could have had okay, not 20 assists. Fred may have had 10 assists. He may have had 30 points because he wouldn't have been doing the typical Fred, you know, hero ball nonsense. He could have had
Yeah.
wide open threes. So he could have gotten those stats. Pascal could have gotten those stats. Everyone could have eaten. But instead, only you guys eat, and it's only And again, okay, at the end, the margin of victory was higher, but there's no way it should have been 11 points in the third. You should
Yeah,
have blown these guys out by 30 from the first half.
I agree. Yeah, it would have just been great to see this team deal with this the way, you know, winning teams are not winning teams by accident. Winning teams are winning teams because they care about winning. And I remember that Kyle Lowry 19 assist game. It was a
Hmm.
masterclass of passing. It was brilliant. This
Yeah,
20 assist game is an embarrassment to basketball.
it was.
And yeah,
He was hung in the air, passed it at the last second, hung in the air, passed it at the last second, and it wasn't a crisp pass. But because it's such weak competition, you're able to recover.
yeah, no, absolutely. Um, yeah, anyway, Oak Tree, thanks a lot for calling in, man. I
All
appreciate
right,
it.
man.
Cheers.
Definite. All right,
Cheers.
man.
See ya. Next up, we got Ishan. Ishan, what's up, man?
Hey Rob, how's it going?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm doing good, Rob. Rob, I was thrilled with seeing OG Ananobi, who I feel like has been playing really well as of late.
Mm-hmm.
His ball handling has been better. His self creation has been better. It just doesn't look as awkward anymore when he's dribbling the ball. I don't know if you kind of picked up on that, but
It's still pretty awkward, but yeah, I'm a big
it's
OG fan, obviously, but
it's not as awkward at least.
the bar is low.
For sure. Sucks though. Towards the end of the game, he did injure his ankle a little bit. Uh, I saw Nick Nurse's comments post game. It's a mild ankle sprain,
Oh no.
but I think that's probably the best case scenario. So I'm hoping he doesn't miss many games or no games at all. Hopefully it's a week at max. But yeah, for any play-in push or postseason run that this team has, any aspirations for OG Anunoby is going to be pivotal. The second most important player probably on this team, or the most important player on this team.
I think he's the most important player. Yeah,
So
that
there's
sucks.
that for sure. I heard you talking about Paulo there. Any thoughts on the Rookie of the Year race?
Hmm.
Are you Jalen Williams? Are you Walker Kessler? Are you Paulo?
Honestly, here's the crazy part. I was not a fan coming into the draft of Paolo or Jalen Williams or Walker Kessler. So if I was playing bingo, I got zero. Like I completely, you know who I was really big on? Peyton Watson, Kenny Lofton Jr. These are the guys, and I'm gonna ride this stock until the sunset. Like Kenny Lofton just won G League Rookie of the Year, so
Yeah,
big shout outs to Kenny Lofton Jr. I know he has. I think he has I think he's awesome. I love him. Um, and Peyton Watson just had a big game. I think 2 nights ago or last night. So big shout outs to him as well. I like those guys, and I like Jabari Smith Jr. even though he's had a terrible season. Now, my terrible 2022 draft analysis aside, who do I pick for Rookie of the Year? Honestly, man, it's hard for me not to say Walker Kessler, and I was very bearish on that pick. I kept saying that they should have, gone for somebody else. And that was initially when Minnesota picked. So it's funny,
yeah,
you know. Um, yeah, he's been amazing. He has been really good. His impact on winning, he plays the right way. He plays defense. It's very hard for me to argue against Walker Kessler for Rookie of the Year. I know he will not win it because 20 points per game will always win out. Um, Especially when, but Utah was competitive
I feel like
for
the vote.
stretches.
Oh, sorry, I feel like the vote's gonna be really close with Jalen Williams as well. He's had a tremendous second half of the season here.
Yeah, he has been really good as well, and I think he has a really big future. I have always liked big playmakers, and he is a big playmaker, right? And um yeah, I mean OKC's future is set because it's like you realize he was their second highest lottery pick, and he might win Rookie of the Year. Um, and then just get Chet. They just get Chet back for nothing, and if he's healthy next year, that's like basically adding like a top three pick again. Yeah, their future is scary. I don't know. I don't know who wins Rookie of the Year, but I think it's okay to question Paolo as Rookie of the Year now. He's fallen off a lot. But again, all three of these guys, none of them played on like 17 win teams. They all
Yeah,
played on teams that have been at least competent through stretches of the season,
for sure, for
right?
sure.
What do you think of like are you follow the league pretty
Of
closely?
course.
What do you think of Ben Mathurin and Shaden Sharp?
I loved Benedict Mathurin out of college, out of Arizona. I was really high on him.
Hmm.
Last year, when there was rumors of the number 7 pick for OG Anunoby, I was even willing to probably trade OG Anunoby because that's how high I was on Benedict Mathurin. I thought
Hmm.
if it was there at number 7, I'll stand by this. I think that Toronto probably makes that trade. I think Mathurin was probably the number 1 prospect on Toronto's draft board last year.
Hmm.
And I think if he was going to be there at 7, I think that deal could have happened.
Wait,
Uh,
you think Benedict Mathurin was the number one prospect for the Raptors?
I think if we were at number 7, or
So
if he
where
was
where
there,
was he on the draft board? Because I'm pretty sure that he was not the number one prospect on their draft board. I mean, they like defenders, man. He does not defend well.
I think because of his Team Canada ties, with later just like his Canadian ties and everything like that. I know he was super high on the draft board for sure. Obviously, he probably wouldn't have been ahead of like Paulo or like any of those guys, right? But
Hmm.
I think like when we were hearing like the rumblings of potentially OG Anunoby for number 7, I think at that point, from like the 7 to 10 range, I think he was probably going to be the first option.
That's interesting. I suspected that it was going to be Dyson Daniels personally. He
Really?
fit everything that they wanted to a T. Yeah, I mean, look, if you go to Basketball Reference, I'm actually going to pull it up while you're talking. But sorry, do you have headphones?
No, not on me at the moment, Rob.
Yeah, just as for future reference, just call in when you have headphones or mute yourself when you're not talking because I can hear myself in feedback
Okay.
when I'm talking. Um, Hang on, I'm just gonna pull up Basketball Reference 2022 draft because it's very interesting, right? You look at the numbers for the 2022 draft and you're like, wow, like Paolo Banchero, like wow, the points. But it's really misleading. And honestly, I've watched him play plenty of times and I think he's been really good, but there's definitely levels to this. So I'm gonna sort this by win shares per 48. because it's going to give me the results that I want, but like kind of just look at this from that perspective. Hang
I
on.
do I do like Shaden Sharp as well. But and he's really young, so like I think he's gonna have a bright future as well. He's already showing flashes of elite scoring ability as well. But Mathurin, I think, has a chance. He's not gonna win Sixth Man of the Year, but as a rookie to be in that conversation as well is pretty impressive.
I agree with you. Also, this comment is hilarious. Rolex $10,000. Hang on. Um, Rolex $10,000. G wagon 235,000. Yorkville condo $10 million. Fred and Pascal today classless. I honestly, Paul, thanks a lot for the super chat. I don't agree that Siakam was classless. I really liked his game today. I know this channel is sometimes not very pro Pascal, but I really liked how he played today. I have no complaints with how he played today. I
I
think
mean, like,
defensively he was pretty engaged sometimes. Honestly, man, it was Fred today. Like for me, it was just like fuck Fred. Like watching his transition defense, I can point to at least 6 times a game where he does not get back on defense, and I'm getting really sick and tired of it. It's bad enough to be the slowest player on the court, in terms of just making it up and down the court, but like conserving all your effort for offense and just not getting back on defense, forcing your team to pick up fouls, and guard 4-on-5 for your dumbass. Like I don't. I think it's just bad. It's setting a really terrible example. Anyway, this is this is the 2022 draft sorted by win shares per 48. What sticks out?
damn. Trying to see this. Damn, Walker Kessler.
Yeah, Walker Kessler and Scottie's boy Josh Minot leading the way. Mark Williams with third. Isaiah Mobley, again, very limited sample size for Josh Minot and Isaiah Mobley. They haven't played a ton of minutes. But in terms of the big minutes, guys, it's really Walker Kessler and Jalen Williams that are really standing out to me. But also very encouraging, Christian Coloco at seventh, right? I mean, again, he's been decent-ish. There's certain stats that'll tell you that Christian Coloco has been downright awful in certain regards because, obviously as a rim running big and relative to centers, shooting 46.8% from the field is not great. But you take that one variable and you just bump it up. And I assure you it will bump up. He's not going to shoot 46% for his career, 47%. I think he could end up being like one of the 10 to 12 best players in this draft in 5 years.
That jump shot today was looking pretty good on that one shot as well too. The
He's
jumper.
awesome. He's awesome. Like I love okay, so people coming into this, honestly, man. Okay, so there was this other thing. Kyle has 19 assists. It's a masterclass. Fred has 20 assists. It's I don't get it. And then the game saying so Fred doesn't pass enough, and now he gets 10, 20 as pat patting. Well, Scottie posted him, so he appreciated him. What the team feels is really what matters in the end. Scottie posted him. What does that mean? Scottie posted him. Like
Probably
I guess
posted
like
it on his story or something.
yeah, Scottie
Yeah.
does that for all his teammates. He's a great fucking teammate. Like obviously.
I mean, Rob, at this point of the season, where Toronto is and everything like that,
Mm-hmm.
and like with all the rumors, I've just kind of started to embrace and like watch from a viewpoint and a standpoint of just like being more appreciative in a sense. Like I know what Fred VanVleet is at this point of his career. I know what Pascal Siakam is at this
What am I
point.
supposed to appreciate here?
I don't know, man. That's the inner peace and positivity that you're gonna have to find for
No,
Fred
no, no, no,
VanVleet.
no, 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 no. We're not gonna turn this into a peace and positivity kumbaya bullshit. No. Peace and positivity happens when you do the right thing, when you do the right action. The right action leads to peace and positivity. If you go and fuck someone over for $10 million or you fuck someone over for $20, it's not the right action. Fucking people over is not the right thing to do. Stat padding is never going to be the right thing to do in basketball. I don't care what your reasoning is. I don't care who you're mad at. I don't know what contract you're going for. It's never going to be the right thing. And for me, I'm not going to appreciate someone playing basketball the wrong way. It's not about appreciation. Appreciation is like I will appreciate a 2 for 20. I'll appreciate a 2 for 20 performance if a player played the right way. there we can say, okay, Rob, shots don't go in, but at least you're trying to do the right thing. I will always appreciate the process. And I find that people, generally speaking, not to make too broad a stroke about this, but I find that people in life who tend to be pretty successful or tend to be happy, I merge sometimes success and happiness into sort of one box, which is just at peace, tend to be very process focused as opposed to results focused.
You know what made Fred's game a little bit more impressive to me tonight? I'm not. I'm or not tonight. Early morning. I'm not a Fred stan by no means, but I think when watching him, you can tell that he's not a real point guard, right? He's a shooting guard. So
Yeah.
when you look at it from the vantage point of, oh, he's a shooting guard and he got 20 assists. I
But
think
who cares? What is 20 assists, bro? In a modern NBA, like, yo, first of all, we gotta adjust the thinking here to what numbers actually mean. Okay? Let me give you an example. Do you play 2K?
yes,
Okay, great. Have you ever played my GM mode?
yes,
Okay. Have you ever gone through that thing where the league votes on 5 different fucking rules?
yeah.
Okay. Have you ever had the league rule in favor of a 20-second shot clock and been like, "Oh my God, what happened to the scoring averages the next year?" As your fucking, scrub ass player averages 22 points per game and your superstar that you thought was doing really great at 29 points per game is suddenly averaging 37 points per game. Have you ever seen that happen?
I have personally not like played around with all the settings like that, but I could imagine for sure.
When you take a 24-second shot clock and you turn it into a 20-second shot clock, you add possessions. That's exactly what happens when pace picks up. That's exactly what happens when, rules change in the NBA. Look around the league and see how many players are averaging 30 points per game right now. Look around the league and tell me, how many players are having 70-point games. How many teams are putting up 150, 160 points. Someone's got to get assists on those, man. Someone has to get assists. So 20 assists is not what it was in the 90s. And honestly, to spam it this way against a lottery team, this shit has to count for something. You have to put these stats into context. When he does something like this in the playoffs and he doesn't rig it, like if he did it the right way. Look, there's a game. Do you realize? Like, I understand that Twitter is going to lose their mind because they're going to be like, yo, he didn't criticize him when he went 0 for 11, but he's criticizing him on 20 for 20. Rob's crazy. I get that. I get that. I
I
understand
mean,
that perspective of it, where how can you criticize a guy when he has 38 points and when he goes 20 for 20, he has a 20-20 game, but you don't criticize him for 0 for 11? Because I will never criticize someone for playing the right way. I will
like
never criticize someone for playing the right
I
way.
get what you're saying with the way that Fred VanVleet played. It's like me in 2K in my career when I'm grinding out like passing badges with a guard, I'm just like giving it to like my teammates last second on the shot clock or when I know that they're just gonna shoot and
Exactly.
hopefully it goes in. I get what you're saying. It's not like the best form of passing, but I just think at this point of the season, like I was watching your stream the other day. Was it yesterday when you were talking about Nick Nurse's comments?
Yes.
You're right, and you were on about just talking about how it's a distraction at this point of the season, right?
Yes.
I think any positive mojo around this team,
But how is this positive?
it's just like going on about it, Rob, saying it's just a
This
negative
is
at this point. Any win for us at this point,
No,
we're
no.
not.
This is a very misguided way of thinking. Yo, this is like a dude going to Vegas and paying $380 for a hooker and then going back to his buddies saying, "Yo, I finally got laid." Yo, you did, but like you kind of fucking rigged it, bro. It shouldn't count the same. It doesn't count the same. This is rigging. I do not like rigging basketball. I will never agree with this game being a good game. I don't care how many times. The only thing I regret is that now when I look at the record books under assists for the Raptors, I now have to see Fred VanVleet's name on the top. Troll job 101. I know that he probably he knows. He's so smart. He's such a smart player. He's a really smart player, and he's probably even a smarter person than he is a player. And he knows probably deep down that this was going to absolutely irritate the living shit out of me.
Rob,
I'm, I'm, so- I'm sorry. Like, explain this to me. You're talking about mojo. You're talking about winning, right? You're talking
just
about
talking about
this
positive vibes. Yes, sir.
positive vibes. Okay, you have a star player on his birthday who scores a basket and then apologizes to a point guard for not getting him the assist for his
Okay,
21st assist. You want to explain
Rob,
that to me? Explain that to me, please.
Rob, in his defense, which I won't normally do, at that point of the game, it was kind of out of reach. It was like, I believe it was a 15-point, 20-ish point game at that point. I think there was like 3 or 4 minutes left at that point of the game, and he misses that bunny layup. Players at that point during timeouts or whatever will check stats. It's not like it hasn't happened before. Players do check their stats at that point of the game. I just think, Rob, like
It's so disappointing to play this way. You are supporting.
I'm not supporting it. I'm just.
You
saying,
are supporting it. You are supporting it. You are saying this is a positive thing and this is positive vibes. And look, man,
I'm not.
I am more positive about look, I can be positive about a loss. I'm not clamoring for wins at this point. I don't fucking care about wins. I care about playing the right way. Because look, man, results-based shit, results-based thinking is what gets you in the playoffs, okay? The Knicks started to play really good basketball in 2000 when they went into the finals. What did they do? They were the 8th seed. But they started to pick up a vibe with Latrell Sprewell, Allen Houston. They finally got fucking, Patrick Ewing out of the post. They put Marcus Camby in the starting lineup. They were playing good basketball. Good basketball can win. In the playoffs, this shit is not going to cut it. So whatever the hell you're rooting for, I think it's misguided, personally. The Warriors, the We Believe Warriors, the 8th seed Warriors that upset the Dallas Mavericks, they were playing good basketball going, it's not about the record. Fuck the record. It's about playing good basketball. Good basketball involves getting back on defense. Good basketball involves letting the... Sorry, can you turn off your mic, man? Like, I'm here. I'm going to get feedback. Good basketball involves, like, letting the ball actually... Like, letting the defense dictate your offense. Good basketball involves ball movement, allows an unpredictability. Spamming pick and roll with Jakob Poeltl over and over and over again. Like, that's not going to work in the playoffs. So what are you even building up to? Like, you know what I mean? Like Ime Udoka, like last year with the Boston Celtics, like they went through an entire process of building up the type of team that could compete, that could be competitive in the playoffs. And they went through a lot of struggles early on, even when it didn't look right. They committed themselves to the process of building up this defense, and they became like the best defense in NBA history per the numbers. I mean, like this shit is about championships. And if it's not about championships, then just say it's not about championships. Listen, this is what I don't support. If you're about numbers, say you're about numbers. Go into the post game and be like, yeah, I got my 20 and 20. Great. Fuck it. Then you're being honest. But what happens when the commentator, Kia Gray, who was it? Kayla Gray or whoever it was. I said Kia Nurse. Kayla Gray asks you about, oh wow, like really great 2020 game. I'm just glad we got the win. Fuck you. This was not about the win. This was not about the win. You could have won this a million different ways. Honestly, this is a really bad team. Okay? This is a really bad team. You could have won this a million different ways. You chose to win it in a way that was going to help your numbers because why? Because your numbers suck on the season and you need contract negotiations. If you can't see how this line of thinking is the reason that the Raptors are in the position they're in right now, then I'm sorry, like you are enabling, in my opinion.
Rob, I'm from the, like, as I was saying, from the standpoint of these guys are not going to be on the team next year. So
how do you know that? How do you know that? I mean, they're champions, right? They're the champions. They're the leaders. You've anointed them as like this really major part. How do you know they're not going to be on the team? And if they're not going to be on the team, then do you care about the people that are going to be on this team next year, that they actually get reps? Like, do you care the fact that when if Delano Banton or Malachi Flynn or, and I know Scottie Barnes is not an impressionable, child, but like, this is really the impression, the example you want your leader and your champion and your captain to be setting for, a group of very young kids. Like, I would not want that. Honestly, look, we can talk about the development pipeline going off the rails for the Raptors until we're blue in the face. I just think that Kyle Lowry set the tone the right way. I think Kawhi was a great leader. I think Marc Gasol was a great leader. I think these guys set the tone for what it meant to be a Raptor. I think that meant you get back on fucking defense. That means you get back on defense. And that means if you don't get back on defense, that means that we're gonna have a conversation after the game. You didn't get back on defense 5 times tonight. You're not gonna play. That is accountability. Accountability is very important in sports. Okay, you have a guy who goes out and stat pads his fucking way into a 2020 game. That's not accountability, as especially when he's conserving on defense. I'm sorry. This is. I
Okay,
cannot. Yeah,
I
we're
just
not. We're not
want
gonna
to
agree
say,
on this.
no, no. I just want to say, I don't think that Fred VanVleet is a leader by no means, by no stretch of like imagination. I'm
He is
not like
anointed as such.
self-anointed or whatever you may say. I
Yo,
don't.
he's not self-appointed. I'll tell you that. Like he may say it over and over again, but I have countless examples of Masai Ujiri stating he's the leader and he's an unbelievable leader and all this bullshit. So look, like I'm yesterday and during the live, I defended Masai pretty steadfastly and very concretely, and I do believe in him a lot. But his misreading of Fred is incredible to me. Like, and look, like you can misread people. You can totally misread people. You can be blinded by, oh, we signed the guy as an undrafted guy. He's a legend. Look, Fred VanVleet's story. You're never gonna see a story like this in Toronto sports again. Undrafted to All Star is not a storyline that you could expect to repeat ever again. Almost every single franchise has one or zero examples of such a player, right? So this is, and for an underdog city, or maybe like a city that kind of sees itself as an underdog, this is the most relatable, Raptor that you've ever had. So I completely understand. I completely get it. I understand why people root for him. I understand why people want him to be the leader. I understand why people defend him. I understand all of that. But I'm trying to tell you, y'all are you guys are like, not you specifically, but like to the people who support him, like you are missing the forest and the trees on this one. Like you are missing what this guy is doing. And in my opinion, the more he stays on this team, the worse it will be long term for every other player on this team.
I get what you're saying, Rob. For sure. Like, hopefully, like if I was in charge of this team, if I was like the front office, I think that this is it for this core, and I believe, like in my personal mind, I think that we are headed towards just building around Scottie Barnes. So the way I've been watching every single game since post trade deadline has
Mm-hmm.
been, okay, this is it. Let's just enjoy it, whatever this product might be. Hopefully, it'll be better next year because the bar has been really low this year. But I'm just watching it
What
like
else do you do with your life, Ishan, other than watch basketball? I'm very curious. Like, what are your other hobbies apart from basketball?
school playing sports. School
Playing
playing
sports.
sports. Yes, sir.
Do you watch any other sports? Do you watch any other teams?
I watch almost every single sport.
You watch every single sport. Okay.
Almost
Yeah,
every
I
single
mean,
sport.
so you have plenty of content in your life. What are you like having to search for positivity? Like, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like I made a live which is somewhat of an underrated live, which I hope, at some point, like some of these lives they're relevant today, they're not relevant in 2 days. Some of them I hope will be relevant for like the next 20 years. And one of the ones that I think will be relevant for the next 20 years was the basketball can be more than escapism live. And I think that, a lot of people will use basketball to escape. Like, I don't need to do that. Like, my life is good, right? Like, genuinely, I don't have like big issues in my life or whatever. So you call it first world problems, right? Um, they call it first world problems. And I'd be like, I'm not a threat. I'm not at a threat to be out of water, out of food. My life is good. Like my friends are great. So yeah, like I don't need to be super positive about the Raptors because I'm positive about my life. So I can be critical and cynical about, what the Raptors are doing without ruining my day. And I'm sorry that in the process of me doing that, I'm ruining somebody else's day. And it's never my intention. But my intention is, however, to call out this shit because the more we wake up as a fan base to this stuff, the more that we call it for what it is. Because, there are very few fan bases that actually have the intelligence, the collective, I call it the collective IQ, the average fan. The average Celtics fan is definitely, in my opinion, smarter than the average Kings fan or the average Rockets fan, maybe. I don't know. There are certain fan bases that typically tend to be a little bit better informed, probably because their media is better, maybe because they have a longer history with the game, maybe it's demographics, maybe there's like 16, 17 universities in that town, and it just tends to bump up the overall collective IQ of that state or that city where the team is located. There's a lot of different reasons why certain fan bases are smarter than others. I would like the Toronto Raptors fan base to be the smartest in the NBA. That's my goal. That's honestly my goal with this channel, is to be a fan base that is so evolved about basketball, because at some point you do start to realize that your team reflects your city. Your team will always reflect your city in some way. If you look at the bad boy Pistons, both iterations of the Pistons championship run reflect that city. And it goes vice versa. There's a sort of symbiotic relationship between fan base and roster construction, right? The San Antonio Spurs are the most San Antonio team ever. If you've been to San Antonio, hopefully you know what I'm talking about, right? There's such a vibe to the Heatles. We're such a Miami team. You know what I mean? So when I think about Toronto, I think about all the good qualities that this city has to offer, from the development to the boom to the whatever. One of my biggest criticism of Toronto sports is the fans. It's the fans. They're leaf brainwashed fans who a lot of them typically tend to have big gaps in their understanding. They root for underdogs. They have massive inferiority complexes, and there's always this feeling in my head that, like, if this fan base can grow up a little bit when it comes to basketball, right? And it's not to sound condescending. I hope it doesn't sound as condescending as maybe it sounds in my head, but like, if we can demand that our basketball is competent basketball, then you would not have to suffer through years of stat padding this way, because your media, like, it all works on a string. The media writes for an audience. If the audience won't pick up what they're putting down, then they have to change. If they change, the questions that the players are being asked changes. If the questions that the players are being asked changes, the level of accountability that the players are being forced to on a day-to-day basis to deal with changes. If that changes, sentiment changes. Sentiment changes, fans stop buying tickets. The team has to adjust. The bosses that Masai answer to say, hey man, the fans kind of like don't like Fred VanVleet. There's like a 26% approval rating on this guy. We're not okaying a $30 million contract for him. Now we have fans, like, I think when fans wake up to the fact that they are actually in control of their team way more than they realize. That's kind of my point here, is that we as a fan base can absolutely dictate the next 20 years of Raptors basketball. You can absolutely dictate that you will not support a rebuild, and then your team will react accordingly. Or you can actually create a very strong momentum for a rebuild by not supporting a fraud contender or pretender, right? So I think that, if you look at New York fans, I've talked to people who've worked in the New York sports media, and they're like, they'll never allow this team to rebuild properly because they get so impatient, and they just start booing players like within like 1 year if they don't work out. And that lack of patience is baked into how New York, the Knicks, have operated for the last 20 years. The fan base is reflecting the franchise. Do you see what I'm saying?
And what happens when like a fan base is like 50-50? Because at times it felt like Toronto fans or Canada fans, because the Raptors are Canada's team, right? What happens when a fan base is torn completely? Then
Split the difference, man. You go down the middle. It's always going to come down to the average fan. It's always going to come down to the median. Whoever is your median fan, that's your reflection, right? Some fan bases are really dumb. I'm just being straight up. Some fan bases are really dumb. Like, if we did an average, like, okay, so here's a question for you. Let's say we took the average fan from every single team, all 30 teams. We put them on to a game show. Let's call it NBA Jeopardy. And we quizzed them and polled them about basic ins and outs of basketball. Like, from the most basic rudimentary fucking high school level plays all the way up to league history, to rules, to draft history. Who do you think, like, Like, and do you think that there would be an advantage seen? Like, okay, just off the top, which fan base do you think would win? You said you watch a lot of teams. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, I want to say Toronto, but that sounds biased as hell. I'll probably go with Boston as well.
I think Boston, Indiana, um, I'm struggling to find another. Like, I used to think Seattle was a really smart
I'll
fan
say San
base.
Antonio. I'll say San Antonio as well.
San Antonio, maybe. Any guesses in the chat? Like, what do you think? Like, I would be very curious to know what people think about other fan bases because we all deal with other fans all the time, right? But like when I listen, like, and here's the crazy thing: I will go and listen to a Pistons podcast. I will go and listen to a Celtics podcast. I'll listen to a Pacers podcast or a Rockets podcast. I want to see what they're talking about. I want to talk about. I want to see what their talking points are. How do they feel about the Raptors after a game? They'd be like, "Oh wow, that Chris Boucher guy, he should be an MVP." I'm like, "Wow, y'all really dumb, right?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta like try to understand it from a very holistic perspective. And one blogger does not represent the entire space, obviously. But clearly, if you see that a person has 35,000 subscribers and they're a Miami Heat podcast, they are very much reflecting that fan base, right? So yeah, I mean, I look at things like that, and I'm constantly fascinated to find out like how fans have an impact on their team. But I genuinely believe that the discussion around the Toronto Raptors has never been more evolved than it is right now. Um, it's never been. I mean, some people would say it's kind of toxic right now. Like, you got like half the fan base saying like build around Scottie, and then the other half the fan base saying like Scottie's a scrub, should have traded him for KD, and it's very polarizing. But that's kind of what happens when you mix water and oil, right? Like, it doesn't mix. Like, you have a very team first, very in the flow basketball savant, and you've put him on the same team as these two guys who like chase their stats and numbers. And yeah, it's never been so glaringly obvious that there's a difference between these two styles of basketball. And then make matters worse, the team is losing. So
Can I just say one thing about
sure.
the people that said that Scottie Barnes should have been traded for Kevin Durant did
Mm-hmm.
not understand the financials and everything that was going to be a part of that deal. It would have probably been Scottie Barnes, OG Anunoby, Gary Trent, plus multiple picks. Probably would have been 3 or 4 first round picks. At that point, you're looking at, let's say the season plays out the way it does. Kevin Durant has been injured multiple times. This team would have been with absolutely zero depth, and we were already struggling with depth at the moment. And then you got Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam with no OG Anunoby, no Gary Trent Jr., and no Scottie Barnes. This team would have been out of the playoffs this year for sure, even with Kevin Durant.
I don't think so. I think they would have been in the playoffs with KD.
Assuming like the injuries and everything, you think that just like
Dude, like the impact of a Kevin Durant is so immense. Like, he immediately pushes Pascal to second option. I mean, do you realize what a first option pairing of Pascal Siakam and Kevin Durant would be? Like, it would be incredible. There's not one team in the East that can compete with those two guys. Like, that would be the best duo in the East. That would
Rob.
be
So
better
like,
than Giannis and Middleton. That would be better than Harden and I mean, it would be close to Harden and Embiid. Like, yeah, like, look, your top two guys have a disproportionate amount of impact on your winning record, and how well those two guys blend and work off of each other. The thing with KD is he is one of the smartest players in the NBA. So for him, it's super easy to work, and him, and then Fred VanVleet too. Oh my God, like, you could have made role players into stars with that level of gravity. Yeah, I guarantee you they'd be in the playoffs with Kevin Durant.
I'm saying if the injuries, like if they held
Oh,
up,
I just want to clarify. I'm not suggesting that I would have traded Scottie Barnes for Kevin Durant ever. I'm not suggesting that, that was a fair trade. I'm not making any point. I'm refuting what you said, which is specifically that they wouldn't have been in the playoffs. I think they definitely would have been in the playoffs.
I'm saying they wouldn't have been in the playoffs, assuming that Kevin Durant's injuries would have like stayed like this year, the way that his year has played out. I think if he missed the amount of games he missed, and we have like even less depth, and then it's just Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam, I don't think this team would have stayed afloat at all.
Yeah, I disagree. PJX saying you're right. We should have made that trade in a heartbeat. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. Sorry. I realize nuance is sometimes lost on people. I am not saying that I would have ever made that trade. I was very, in that moment, very anxious. But I believe I was the first person who went on the internet to say that Scottie Barnes was off the table because I'd heard something from someone inside that he was not being offered. And that Evan Mobley was not being offered from the Cleveland Cavaliers, and that those two guys were out of discussions for Kevin Durant trade talks. This is before the Cleveland Cavaliers eventually moved their sights over to Donovan Mitchell. But I just want to say, like, I think I think the Raptors moving off of Scottie Barnes for Kevin Durant would have been a huge mistake. And KD is my favorite player, or one of my favorite players in the NBA, in NBA history actually. Like he would make my top 10 all time. Yeah, I love Kevin Durant. I've always loved Kevin Durant all the way back to Texas. But yeah, like I think you're crazy if you think the Raptors don't make the playoffs with him. Him, Van Vliet, and Siakam. Oh my God, what a trio! Like that would be so. I'm not saying it would be fun to watch or whatever, cause knowing what had to go out, but basketball wise, like from a very basketball perspective, it's incredible. The ping ponging between those three guys. Like they're all competent defenders. They're all competent scorers and shooters. Oh my God. Like he would have unlocked everything. Yeah, there's a reason why the Raptors were after Kevin Durant. But there's also have a great chat, I guess. I don't know. This entire chat was weird from the mic not working early on to whatever the hell this was. Um to the WNBA talk. I mean, I don't know. This is what happens when Fred VanVleet has a 2020 game. It breaks my brain. Um, and look, I haven't checked Twitter. I haven't checked Twitter. I haven't checked Reddit. I haven't checked Real GM. I haven't checked, all of the hoopla because I've been busy doing this live stream. But I'm positive, almost positive that the unanimous, opinion on this is going to be that this was a great game for him. Um, I want to see this team play together. I want to see this team guard competently. I want to see this team, put up professional efforts against teams that they should genuinely be able to beat, hungover, right? Um, there's a lot of issues on this team. I think some of them are getting better. I genuinely believe that. I believe that what Fred VanVleet said about Jakob Poeltl being a solution in the middle of the court, being a secondary playmaker, being a guy who can balance things out. I think that's a really fair point. I really do. I think that he has been such a solid screen setter and a hub. And I'm very curious to see, how this either does well or gets exposed in the play-in. As of right now, I believe the Raptors are eighth. They would face the Miami Heat if the play-in were to start today. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but I think that's true. Um, And so yeah, like you would be on the road against Miami, and then you'd have a chance to close out your season at home, for the eighth seed, and then you get to face off against the Milwaukee Bucks. Like I mean, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I genuinely am. I want the season to just be over, so that we can, and number one, obviously start addressing the elephant in the room, which is Nick Nurse coaching rumors, all this stuff. Have you guys heard of the Zegernich effect? There's, I like, I love that every chat can introduce something new. Zegernich effect pertains to the open loops and how open loops can drive us crazy. So if I say dun 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 dun, dun but then I don't say dun dun, well, you've always heard those notes in succession. If someone plays like a quarter of a song, it's actually and if you can figure this out, your Instagram reels and social media content would go insane, because human beings are highly individual and highly unique, but there are certain core things about our minds that tie us together. And one of the things is that we like closure to things. And there's so many open loops with the Raptors right now. Is Fred coming back? Is OG going to get traded for multiple picks? Is Jakob coming back? Is Gary coming back? Is Scottie happy right now? Is Nick Nurse going to be on this team? Wow. I have already introduced so many open loops that are unresolved and don't have a clear answer. What is the next contract for Fred VanVleet and who is going to sign it? I have no idea. Is Nick Nurse on his way out? I have no idea. Who will replace him? There was an article that suggested Sam Cassell. Sam Cassell. I mean, that could be interesting. You know, Frank Vogel. Interesting names. I mean, there's just a lot of interesting candidates out there. Obviously, there's the in-house. I think it was Raptor that had the article. It was Earl Watson and Adrian Griffin, two former NBA players, both NBA players that I really liked as NBA players. Ironically, I remember playing with both of them in NBA 2K. That'd be kind of cool to have a coach, that you actually played once with NBA 2K. That'd be kind of funny. It'd be the first time in Raptors history that I could say that was the case. Sam Mitchell, I just never really played with the Minnesota Timberwolves, I guess, but that'd be interesting. I don't know. There's so many things that are. Yeah, you and I know that's never gonna happen, right? That's funny. um, I love Sam Cassell, really good coach, and should have replaced Doc Rivers. What do you think about what do you think about Frank Vogel? I think, man, is there a part of me that just wants Jeff Van Gundy to come here and just like yell at everybody? Yeah, sure. It's totally, I don't know. We were having a discussion the other day about worst Raptor coaches in NBA in our history, and I cited Jay Triano and Sam Mitchell, and people were aghast or perhaps offended that I did not mention Kevin O'Neal. That's because I don't consider Kevin O'Neal that bad a coach. But recently he did some apparently really terrible shit. I actually, there was a part of me that wanted to bring him on because he was, yeah, like he was I guess, the coach in Vince's final year here, right? Wait, was it? No, Sam Mitchell was the coach, but he was the coach in Vince's final full year here, if I recall correctly. So I wanted to have him on, and then I started looking into some stuff on him, and I was just like, oh my god, can't be talking to this guy on the internet right now. Apparently, he had done something horrible or something. So, but yeah, I had a chance to meet Kevin O'Neal. I attended a basketball clinic with Kevin O'Neal back in, I think it was 2003, 2004 ish, and I found him to be such a great coach. Like for me, like, and again, that was for me in my high school days, and I just learned so much from him. So it was really hard to be overly critical of how he coached the team. Um, and the team was relatively competent with him. I think they were 25-25 before a big injury took him out. So I think it was an improvement. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. I mean, look, people forget Frank Vogel is, he was the coach of the Indiana teams that were so good with Paul George and, Roy Hibbert. Like that was Danny Granger. I mean, that was considered like a serious title contender before Paul George's big injury, and um, yeah. I mean, again, we have a sort of championship or bust attitude towards everything, but there have been a lot of great teams that never won a championship, and I think the coaches that can get you there, again, it's process over results. The result is a championship, obviously, but look, man, there's like, you think the Sacramento Kings should hold their head in shame because they didn't win a championship? With Chris Webber, Vlade Divac, Peja Stojakovic, Scott Pollard, Hito Turkoglu, Mike Bibby, like Doug Christie. That was such a great team. It was so fun to watch, and they did something incredible. Yeah, they didn't win the championship, but they did something incredible. All those years of Spurs basketball that didn't result in a championship were still beautiful to watch, man. Um, even like again, like the Heat, they went to the finals 4 years in a row. They only got two chips. Do we just wipe out the two that they didn't get? Is everything just so zero sum? No, it isn't. So I don't know. To sum this up, I believe in process. I believe in process. I believe in playing the right way. I believe that you guard, you move the ball, you take the right shots, you play for each other, and I hate to sound like Coach Carter or like some like broken record to have to do this over and over and over again, but I cannot respect a result that comes from playing the wrong way. It just can't. So anyway, have a great Sunday, guys, and yeah, good luck to the Raptors on Tuesday against Charlotte. They'll have a day off. Um, I believe it's a home and home. Am I mistaken? I think the next game is here. It's not a road and road, right? It's a home and home. Um, so yeah, so I mean, like I think that we should whoop the we'll whoop the Hornets, and yeah, like I think eighth is the way is where we need to be. It will be good because I mean, look, eighth, you could end it in one game, and that would be great, right? Like you could, but at least you'll have a chance to finish it out on your home court, and you get a playing game at home. Jurassic Park, yo, like the weather will be good. Um, yeah. Oh, it's in Charlotte. Jeez. Okay, so the Raptors have only one. If I'm correct, the Raptors only have one game remaining at Scotiabank. Is it the Milwaukee game? Wow. Yikes. The season went by. Yeah. I mean, look, it's going to depend, right? If those teams are going to rest their starters, um it's going to be a cakewalk. Like the Raptors could end the season on a winning streak. It'd be good momentum to take into it. But I just again, like, I'm not so super concerned about the wins and losses. I care about the seeding, obviously. So wins are crucial and paramount for the right seeding. But I also mostly care that this team is playing the best basketball going into the play-in, and it would be hard to argue right now that they're not playing the best basketball of the season going into the play-in. Um, let's hope OG Anunoby is healthy. And if he's even a little bit not healthy, then just by all means rest him the next game, and hopefully he can be back for the final season. Yeah. Anyways, take care, guys. And yeah, thanks a lot, Sheridan Forbes. Guys, hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't. And yeah. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.